So when you're looking to actually exit your company, the buyer is often going to do due diligence to actually assess and determine whether or not the asking price is reasonable. And so what many first-time founders often don't know is how big of an impact that quality of earnings can have on your exit multiplier. And so what really makes up quality of earnings, for example, is delayed investment in infrastructure. In this video, I'm going to go over exactly how quality of earnings can impact your business, give you a breakdown on how you can improve them, and give you a model that actually makes sense and you can use to actually validate whether or not a big investment, for example, infrastructure, makes sense for your exit multiple. And so that leaves one simple question. Why should you listen to a guy in a beach chair in the middle of the winter? Well, to put this quite simple, my name is Tyler Bravacqua and I'm the managing partner at E76. Now, we are an operations firm working with private equity and venture capital to actually optimize their portfolio of companies. So let's get into it. All right, so I want to talk about how quality of earnings can impact the value of your business. Now, when a private equity firm offers $50 million, they are buying an exclusive option to audit you. And so the LOI price is the ceiling. And every flaw that's being discovered reduces that price. And so forensic accountants will always view deferred maintenance, things like old servers, manual processes, and lack security as debt-like items. And you think, I saved $100,000 by not upgrading the ERP, but your buyers think, oh, this company has $150,000 in undisclosed liability payable immediate post-close. And so who performs the audit and what they actually look for? These buyers will often hire big firms, things like Deloitte, PwC, etc., or a transaction advisory specialist like maybe like Alvarez and Marsal, right, to actually perform these quality of earning reports. And so these consultants are not there to validate your business. They are hunters. They are incentivized to align with the buyer to give them reasons to lower the overall price. And so the economic incentive is that if they charge the buyer $150,000 for the audit, they need to identify at least $500,000 in price reductions to actually justify their fee and secure future engagements. So they get paid to literally find problems. And they are forensically trained to actually spot deferred maintenance, manual processes, security gaps, and unsupported systems. They know where private business owners cut corners to actually save cash. Now, you run your business to actually minimize tax and maximize cash flow, but private business owners optimize for take-home pay and not EBITDA, right? So the auditor will run a process called the normalization, where they calculate the actual true ongoing cost of operating the business at market standards. And so the process is they would talk to your team and say, how much time do you actually spend on manual workarounds? When was the last time the system was updated? What would break if, we doubled? They benchmark you against industry standards, right? A normal company of your size should be spending $200,000 per year on IT, not $50,000. And then they'll lastly restate your EBITDA downward, right? If they add $150,000 to your projected annual expenses and you trade a 10x multiple, that's $1.5 million removed from your valuation. The entire price reduction happens through a single question. Can this business run at a scale without these upgrades? If the answer is no, you pay for it, either before the deal or out of your pocket, or after the deal through a reduced purchase price, but it's always going to be at your expense. Now, the second part is 3 value destruction mechanisms. They will find deferred maintenance and they will attack in 3 different sections, right? Being a debt-like item, which is outdated hardware, unsupported software, and cannot operate day one without the fix. And the buyer will often deduct the cost plus risk premium, not the actual cost. So an example, like I just mentioned, but the buyer quotes consultants, downtime, price risk, budgeting that to $130,000. The purchase price just reduced to $130,000, right? The other one is EBITDA adjustment, the multiplier killer, right? Operational efficiencies, things like manual data entry, paper processes, right? These are things that often will kill your EBITDA. The seller uses cheap labor and the buyer needs actual software, right? Software licensing is a recurring expense subtracted from EBITDA. And so, for example, an annual software costs $50,000, 8x multiple, that's $400,000 wiped from your EBITDA, right? Most dangerous, it compounds. So $50,000 expense does not reduce the price $50,000. It reduces the price $400,000. And the last part is the actual indemnification escrow, right? The infrastructure risks like weak cybersecurity, no disaster recovery, or undocumented systems, right? The actual buyer locks 10% of purchase price in escrow for 18 to 24 months. You do not receive that at closing. So if a cybersecurity attack happens, they drain it and nothing happens. You lose time value 2 years and they worry about manufacturer claim, right? Third part is the multiplier effect. So in a small business, a dollar saved is a dollar earned. In a sale, a dollar saved through efficiency is worth $6 to $10. And so a dollar saved through neglect costs $12+. And so a scenario might be something like an outdated CRM, right? It works, but the sales director spends 5 hours per week manually compiling reports. So the cost to upgrade in this instance might be $40,000 one time plus $5,000 a year for the license. So the current cost is zero because you run your old software, and your decision is not to spend $40,000 because we are simply selling soon. Now the forensic audit, and when I say this, that the actual auditor interviews the sales director, which he admits, I spend 15% of my time fighting the sister, and the actual auditor calculates that a salary of $200,000, wasting 15% of his time, that's $30,000 per year in inefficiency. And so at the end of the day, the buyer will often argue that normalized business needs modern CRMs, and 2 adjustments are made, right? And adjust EBITDA down $5,000 per year because of your new software cost, which is treated as $40,000 implementation as immediate CapEx requirement debt-like item, right? And so we look at the math. Cash is $40,000. Like, you can either save money or spend money, right? And so if we look at this, the end goal is if you don't spend the $40,000, you're minus $50,000. But if you spend the money and actually upgrade the infrastructure, you're up $200,000. And so by saving that $40,000, you actually burned $250,000 in potential exit value. And so every dollar of EBITDA is worth 8 to 12 at that exit. Every dollar of perceived risks costs the same. And so you can, fix now or pay later, like I just mentioned. You can either fix the problem now or don't, and you're gonna have to pay for that later when you exit, right? You can't fix everything, but you can be surgical. And so I hope this video found value to you. If you have any questions, drop them in the description. If you're a company doing $300,000 to $3 million in annual revenue, you can check out the link in the description. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.